Let me ask you folks this. How many people here know somebody with a pill problem? Yeah, you'd be honest. How many people here know somebody who's been through drug treatment program and still has a pill problem? Okay, I'm going to tell you the most important word out of this whole talk I'm going to give you right now is, I'm going to give you a word that you ought to look at. It's called iboga. I-B-O-G-A. There is a one-time 24-hour cure, not a treatment, a cure for opioid addiction, 24 hours, no withdrawal. Iboga. The reason that you know people have been through drug treatment programs and still have a problem is this. When you take an addictive drug, a molecule of that drug attaches itself to one of the receptor sites in the brain. It's there permanently, and it produces what's known as a euphoric recall. As you recall what a rush you got, you recall, and you want, that's that voice inside of you saying, hey, you want more, you want more. And the drug that you do does not contain the high. The drug you do gets your body to release its own drugs called peptides. This is your pleasure chemicals, your pain relief chemicals. That's serotonin, endorphin, and dopamine. Okay, and it gives you that rush. And the more drug you get that rush. In order to get that same rush next time, you got to do a little more of the drug. And as you got to do increasing amounts of the drug to get the same rush, because it's depleting the body's ability to naturally access that stuff. So for every year of addiction, after a while your body loses its ability to naturally access those peptides. And for every year of addiction, it takes 6 months to a year for your body to replenish its ability to naturally access the peptides. That's why the 30, 60, 90-day programs don't work. You come out of there, and your manifest symptoms of withdrawal are sublimated, but they're still there, plus you got the euphoric recall in there, and that's why people relapse. Okay? Iboga is the only substance known. It's a natural substance. It's the shavings of a root bark out of Africa. The natives have been using it for sacraments for generations. They use it to introduce adolescents into adulthood. And what it does is it produces a mild and dreamlike state. I mean, you're aware of things, but you're kind of mild dreamlike state. Some people talk about seeing their ancestors. If you got to use the bathroom, you can get up and go to the bathroom. If you're hungry, you can get up and grab a bite to eat, but you go back and lay down for a little bit. 24 hours, iboga knocks that molecule off the receptor side of the brain, the only thing known to do that, and immediately replenishes the body's ability to naturally access the peptides, so you don't go through withdrawal. It's illegal in 4 countries, Belgium, Switzerland, Sweden, and the U.S. They got underground treatment centers all over the country by addicts who found the cure, not the treatment, the cure. And they've got above ground treatment centers in Mexico and Canada, Jamaica. And I sat with a lady with a 3-year, $200 a day Oxycontin habit, had already burned holes through her nose, gone through every treatment center possible. 24 hours later, she was cured. No memory of craving the drug. It will not cure the psychological problems of the people, but it will take that monkey off the back and cure folks. It's a frigging miracle. Iboga, check it out. We're going to look at getting that. Wrote it in my book, gave a phone number for people to call several years ago, and since that time I've probably had 30, 35 people come up and say, you saved my granddaughter's life, you saved my father's life. We called the number, we got a referral. We went to Jacksonville, we went to Canada, we went to New York City, the underground treatment programs. Like that, folks, it's unbelievable. I try to include this in every talk I give because it hits home with so many people. And I really, if you can get this message out there, this is one of the things that my campaign does, is try to educate whether I win or not. I want this campaign to count for something and to try to help people, because I think it's government's role to uplift and educate and ennoble and enlighten the people, rather than get on their backs and be a taxation and a burden on them. Okay, a couple other things. I want to give every 8th grader in the state of Kentucky a laptop computer. I want to Wi-Fi the state. Give every 8th grader a laptop computer. They take it home, it's theirs. Chile did this. They have you throw them against the wall, it won't hurt them. They said, Galbraith, you're trying to emulate Chile's educational policy? And I said, no, but a good idea is a good idea. We need to lift our kids. They can take it home. It's going to enrich the educational environment in all those homes, including them showing their siblings how to use it, showing their parents how to use it. I want to freeze tuition, and a little late for you all, but I want to award every high school graduate in the state of Kentucky a $5,000 voucher for books, tuition, and fees to any institution of further learning in the state of Kentucky that will train them into employability. Whether it be truck driving school, cosmetology school, UK, UL, Spencerian College, Berea College, You know, it's time we talk about further education for everybody, not just higher education for a few, and we need to train our C and D students into employability too, or else they're just going to be a drag on us. So it's not for pizza, rent, and beer, no creature comfort attached to it, it's books, tuition, and fees, and it's got to be spent within Kentucky and within 10 years. So you spend part of it now, part of it later. It might only pay 1 or 2 semesters, but it's going to give a lot of people out here, a lot of these kids in these poor counties, some vision beyond the high school diploma, besides the fact you don't have to work, you don't have to go to school, and you get a driver's license. It will give people sponsored conversations around the supper table. What are you going to do with your voucher? It will also invite in worker training programs and emerging industries into the state, because we will pay them to train our workers to take part in that industry or become trained in that work. And so it also, one of the really nice parts about it, is those kinds of small businesses and worker trainings can locate in the rural counties. They don't have to center themselves in a populous area, because there's a target audience in every county of the high school seniors there every year who have $5,000 in their pocket, you know, to be trained in something. So it ought to just disseminate a lot of worker training programs. It gives these kids hope. It makes the high school diploma really worth something. So we ought to be able to strengthen the underlying curriculum on what it takes to earn it. It ought to cut out of the high school dropout, because it's worth something to stay in there now. And the really beautiful part about it is that we're refunding education at the directive of the people who need to be educated. That is, not the first dollar gets spent until that person presents themselves there at the place to begin their training. It's not like spending $100 million in building a building and trying to entice people into the curriculum and having all that money invested. The first dollar doesn't get invested in you until you show up to begin your training. So for every dollar spent, there's a step towards employability. And there's not a dollar wasted in that kind of thing. Very strategic method I see of refunding education. In 1991, we spent 68% of the budget on education. This year, we're spending 58% of the budget on education. Let me ask you folks this now. The Council for Post-Secondary Education, the people who want to talk about what after high school, they say that their goal is to double the number of bachelor's degrees given out by the year 2020. After what I told you about the $8 an hour economy, I have this question to ask you. What are those, the $8.50 an hour jobs? You know, folks, let me tell you, somebody who can fix a transmission or an air conditioner 10 years from now is going to be a lot more valuable than somebody with a master's in English lit. I'm just telling you. You're thrown open to employment competition with people halfway around the world that both call a day for a bowl of rice and a mat to sleep on. My youngest daughter has a boyfriend. He went through Wendy's here about a year ago, went across a little ding-dong, nice gal on the other end of it, on the line, takes his order. He says, I like your voice, let me buy you a Frosty. She says, no, sir, you can't. He said, no, let me buy it to you. She says, you can't, sir, I'm in India. You know, $8 a day employee over there replaces an $8 an hour employee here. She probably gets the order right more often than our high school graduates do. Okay, so that's who you're open to competition with, folks. You know, you've got to be smart about this. And so this is the message. I'm just the messenger. You know, it's called free trade and global market and new world order. And you're under the gun. Your generation is facing it even more seriously than I did. And a country that abdicates its role as human rights advocate on a foreign policy basis is right next to abdicating it on a domestic basis. Your all's rights, your Bill of Rights, your privacies are all under attack right now through such things as the Patriot Act and all these other treaties where they say they're trading off your rights. I ain't going down that fight. And that's what this governor's race is all about as far as I'm concerned. Kentucky was ranked the worst run state in the Union. Both parties are at fault, folks. It's the parties, it's the partisanship. They got their horns locked up like two bull elk fighting over territory while our business lays dead in the dust. And neither party can produce a candidate can disengage from partisanship long enough to work the other side to get the job done. When I'm through with my administration as an independent, I want both parties to be on sound footing. I want them both to be poised to do the kinds of things which they're known for, represent the people and principles they say. I want the Republicans to keep these big socialist Democrats off our backs and out of our private lives. And I want the Democrats to chide the Republicans for trying to keep all the money and put a little jam on the lower shelf. I mean, you know, there's a fine balance. People say, "Are with you for coal or are you green?" I said, well, do I have to be one or the other? Is there a middle of the road that we can try to get to on all the issues for which there are competing interest groups in the state? Incivility and vituperation have kept them from sitting down and working it out. Think of what our founding fathers had to set aside as far as personal beliefs and predilections. Hell, they just shot each other on sight back then. They set that aside and sat down and crafted the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. We need to get back to there. People say, Galbraith, you conservative? And I say, yeah. They say, who do you listen to, Hannity or Limbaugh? And I said, no, I listen to Jefferson and Adams and Washington and Franklin. Those are the voices running around in my head when I talk about solutions to Kentucky's problems. Recognize life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as the prime paradigm for how you operate government. Think about that. In the national level, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is not a law. It's a concept and an idea in the Declaration of Independence. It has no force of law. But the state of Kentucky's Constitution, which is the most pro-people Constitution ever devised by anybody, far more pro-people than a federal Constitution or any other state Constitution, the #1 section of Kentucky's Constitution is you're entitled to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We want to see if that still has a life, if that still has a pulse, and that's the guiding principles. That's what I'm trying to run on. That's what I want to operate on. My running mate, Dee Riley's the only woman in the race. 6 children, 2 of them adopted. One for natural children with special needs. We know where rubber meets the road on women and children's issues. And, you know, we've got, I must tell you folks, we're already ahead of Mr. Williams in the poll. Mr. Williams last night told the University of Kentucky, look, if it looks like Mr. Galbraith is ahead of me in the polls towards the final days, vote for Mr. Galbraith. He said that publicly 3 times now. It's been reported in the media. So he understands we need to derail Mr. Bashir. And Mr. Williams has been the victim of so much hatchet job on the part of the media around the state that he really can't win. You know, I mean, it's just a fact he can't. He and I are very civil. When a question is asked and he has an answer for it, I tell him, David, that's a great answer. That's really what we ought to do. Ditto. I can't improve on that answer. But you can't get it through, David. If you could, if you would have already. So what we need is you as president of the Senate and me as governor, and we'll put that idea through because it's a good one. Same thing with the Democrats. You got a good idea to come to the governor's office, we'll put it through. So you all will never, ever in your lifetime, ever have another chance to vote for anybody like me or for anybody who stands for what I stand for. You know, it's just nobody, you know, I've been at it 40 years, folks. I was 24 years old and a milkman when I decided to go to college and become an attorney and become governor and lift Kentucky out of poverty. And I've been studying how to do it every day for the last 40 years. I've run many times for political office before, and they said, Galbraith, you know, you crazy, Galbraith. Yeah, I'm a little crazy. But I believe in America, and I believe I'm not going to let it vanish from in front of me without fighting. Went Marines in '66, got an attack of asthma, got discharged. You know, so I'm willing to do whatever it takes to try to do it. It's been a grand and glorious battle. And, you know, I couldn't be more proud to have stood for what I stood for. And this is the last time, folks. I'm 64 again. I just cannot do it anymore. I've been running 29 months. 29 months. The polls are going to try to disengage you with the polls. You know, don't pay attention to the big money polls. They can't afford to make me look good in any respect. So what they do is in these past polls, they go back to the last primary. This is the big basis, the heart of those being polled of people who voted in the last primary, which was 10% of the population. The very heart and soul of each of the parties, the people who would not vote any other way besides for their party, actually went out 10% of them. You know, I'm polling 10 to 12% within the very heart of each of the parties. That's fantastic. Because outside of the very heart, I'm sweeping them. And those people don't get polled. Because they didn't vote in the last primary. They were so disgusted or didn't have a reason to. So this is it. I need 450,000 votes to win this thing. 350,000 more women vote than men. And I've got the only woman in the race. You know, I've got the miners, the deep miners, I've got the Shriners, I've got the state employees whom he furloughed. I've got a lot of law enforcement. I've got most of the military, which is the second biggest demographic in the state, next to the Baptists. The military's there. I got a lot of them. We got the gun owners, like I say, Constitutional Party, Green Party. You know, I don't have the environmentalists. So we have a heck of a shot at it. I would appreciate you all paying attention to it. I'd appreciate you all getting the people out for me. And I'll put it to you this way, folks. If I was going to lie to you, I would already have been elected governor. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you having me tonight.
Anna Kerman. I'm originally from Jessamine County. My family just moved to Fulton County. I have a question for you about your views on education and how you want to support that.
Yeah.
We don't have money right now in Kentucky. We are in debt as a state.
38
How
billion.
do you propose that you're going to get money to give $5,000 to every graduate who goes on to secondary education
Okay, sure.
and a laptop to every 8th grader?
Okay, that's a legitimate question. I got an answer for it, okay? In Kentucky, we have things, what we call the personal service contracts. And this is where the government, state of Kentucky, hires outside help, outside state government to do state work for us, okay? In 1995, it was $280 million. This year, it's $2 billion. And the reason for it is that that's where the payoffs go to the people who give the special interest contributions to the person who wins the office. 90% of the money given to Mr. Beshear for his campaign are people who do business with the state. So when he gets in there, when they get contracts with the state to do state work, which a lot of our state workers could do, except that's where the payoff happens and they get paid tenfold. So I can take $1 billion out of that. I think I can take $1 billion out of that, okay? The Commonwealth incentive is going to cost us $300 million a year. That's 60,000 high school graduates at $5,000 if they all went out and spent it all at one time. We're going to have some cost of administration of that. A laptop computer for every 8th grade comes to $24 million. That's $60,400 laptop computers. We're also going to have to Wi-Fi the state and the administration of that. So we're looking at, let's say, $375 million. When I ran in 1991, we spent 68% of the state budget on education. This year we're spending 58% of the state budget on education. So what I'm looking to do is find out where that money was stripped away from that education budget, see if we can get back any of it into it. But I know that I can pay for those two things with money and taxes that we've already gotten. We're also going to try to get endowments into this. I'd like to go to Bill and Linda Gates and say, hey, look, why don't you, as a pilot project, see what educational results we can get out of a state school system by starting in this 8th grade and get us, say, for the next 5 years. Why don't you invest $120 million into this educational experiment and see if we can lift up the kids? I'm going to be looking for private endowments. I'm going to be looking for these big super money funds that, give out things for social experiments. We're going to overturn every darn rock that we can. But let me tell you, it's corruption that keeps this state poor. It's corruption that doesn't allow us to fund Medicaid or teachers' retirement because the legislature and special interests have stolen every extra dollar out of there that the taxpayers of Kentucky have produced. And even more than that, they bonded you and indebted you another $400 million in this last budget and called it a balanced budget. So we're going to stop putting ourselves any further in debt. But we already have enough tax dollars to fund that. And that's the stop the corruption. That's what keeping the state poor.
Wouldn't it seem to be more of a viable option to erase the debt first, so that we don't have to place a burden of debt upon this next generation? As opposed to...
That debt is already incurred, dear, and until we spike the economy in this state, we have no hopes of gaining any ground on it. We're losing ground every day. Unless we set ourselves up as someplace where you ought to come in and create jobs because we got the workforce that can do it, our economy is going to go in backwards, which in reverse, which it is right now. We've lost 94,000 jobs. We can reduce our debt somewhat, but we're going to lose a lot of jobs at the same time. We need to do something to stimulate the economy, and without raising taxes, if we can use the current tax load to do it, it's going to bring in the kinds of money that we can use to more radically attack those debts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, you folks, all the money that the state of Kentucky has was lifted out of the Farmers Bank over in Frankfort and given over to Chase Manhattan Bank here within the past several months. Chase Manhattan is now holding all the finances of the state of Kentucky and holding them hostage because they had to go up there and bond another $400 million in indebtedness, and it cost us another $30 million to get that job done. But in order for them to okay it, we had to take all our finances up to Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City right now. So the state of Kentucky doesn't even have its own money in its own accounts. They're writing all the checks for the state. That's how bad things are, folks. I got to run. My running mate is on KET tonight. I think it's 7 o'clock, maybe 8. Anyway, I invite y'all to take a look at it. I couldn't be more proud. This woman is just terrific. My biggest problem is figuring out when she's wrong about something. So, I appreciate it, folks. Thank you very much.